global happenings today. We communicate, we analyze global news. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to Global Happenings. Today we have a trending news for you, and headline reads: Nigerians' true saving grace is via decentralization of federal powers, a sitting governor says. But before we go into the details of this news and further analysis, we would like you to subscribe to this channel by clicking on the red subscribe button below. Beside it, you see a bell notification icon. Please click on it to get notified as soon as you update the channel. Alright, let's go straight into the news of the day. Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the Lagos State Governor, has offered a fresh impetus on how true federalism can solve the current security challenges bedeviling Nigeria and put the country on the path of accelerated development. Sanwo-Olu said decentralization of some exclusive functions of the federal government, including the provision of security, will provide an instant answer to the current agitations threatening the unity of the country. The governor said the emergence of beggar states as the major constituents of Nigeria's federation would not take the country to the future it desires in a world that is developing rapidly. He said the flawed federalist ideas enshrined in the 1999 Constitution has continuously limited the power of the state to pursue individual development at their own pace, stressing that Nigeria must holistically address fundamental question of federalism if the political class was serious about lifting the country out of the current situation. Lagos State Governor recalled that Nigeria was administered efficiently during the period of regional arrangement, pointing out that the feat was achieved because each region assumed autonomy on its resources and developed at its own paces without relying on handouts from the center. He said one of the legacies of the military rule was the abolition of powerful and largely financially independent regional governments and replaced with weaker entities known as the state. These states were of course beholden to a very powerful central government that doled out resources to them and used every opportunity to make it clear that the states were appendages of the center. At the time, the regions worked hard, earned their revenues from export, from taxes and so on, and kept a large chunk of what they earned. None of them came to Lagos, then the federal capital, the caps in hands for what we now refer to as the federal allocation. Every region survived mainly on its internally generated revenue. There was also a healthy competition amongst the regions. The governor stressed that the provision of security must be highly decentralized, adding that states must play a significant role in providing internal security, while the federal government must face the issues of defense, foreign policy, border controls, currency and customs, among others. Sanwo-Olu also called for a review of the terms of fiscal federalism between the center and the state government, saying that the federal government must consciously devolve more responsibilities and resources to the state and local government, as those entities are the closest to the people. He said today the revenue sharing formula is 52.6% for the federal government, 26.7% to the state, and 20.6% to the local government. The federal government takes the lion's share, outmuscling the state and local government, which are the closer tiers to the populace. State and local government ordinarily should be drivers of development. As it is today, it is common knowledge that most states depend on a month allowance from Abuja to survive. States should be free to control the drilling of oil and mining of solid minerals and pay required taxes and royalties to the federal government account. The many states really have no business being poor or suffering a cash crunch given their huge mineral deposits. There's also no reason why states cannot generate and deliberate and distribute electricity and license the same within the geopolitical and geographical limits. This can be done in a way in which necessary returns will be made to the federal government. In spite of the challenges facing the nation, someone who said no one should lose hope of a better future, observing that the ongoing revolution in the agricultural section and investment in infrastructure by the President Muhammad Buhari administration had started to gradually change the outlook of the national economy. He said, what is clear to me is that to achieve these reforms that will require, many of our laws need to change. We need to rewrite and update obsolete laws obsolete laws to bring them in line with the realities of today. We must believe in what we produce and encourage everyone who seeks to make a difference in this regard. We must also consume what we produce. One advantage we have is our population. We have a local market that is sufficient to sustain as much local produce as we can achieve. Many other countries are too small to enjoy such privileges. So we also call for increased investment in technology and innovation. He noted that the Nigerian police force was efficiently running until the collapse of the Second Republic, when the degradation of the police force began. He said we cannot continue to use the central method to tackle challenges. We need a national conversation on the current situation. As the political class is challenged, Nigeria cannot afford to lag behind while the world moves at a speed in development. All right, you've heard it all from the sitting governor of Lagos State. He is actually not far from the truth. You can see that right now it looks like the federal government's hands are so full, and they seem to have lost steam. They've lost idea of how to tackle the issue of insurgency, insecurity, bedeviling the country. He's actually not far from the truth. He's saying the mind of many Nigerians. The reason why there's so much agitations here and there, the reason why a lot of persons are thinking of Odua and the rest, is because the insecurity level is at its apex. It's at its very reach at very supreme level, highest level, the peak actually. The common man now is not sure of his tomorrow. Depending on some certain region, you will know that Nigeria right now is bedeviled by insecurity. Like he rightly said, there's some states that are known as seen as beggarly states. He probably doesn't want to hurt some of his colleagues, fellow governors in those states, but the truth be told, we all know that a lot of the north central, the northeast are actually some of those so-called beggarly states. If we are to go by regional development, permit me to say they're not actually be lacking behind. They are actually in the power. They are actually in the corridor of power, but yet they have the highest number of amajuris, the highest number of illiterate. Their section, their region is the headquarters of poverty, not just in the world, but in Africa as a whole, in Nigeria as a whole. You cannot take it away from them that that's quite a poor region. While other regions are exporting, the southeast are exporting oil, mineral resources. They're exporting tourism. The west, southwest is exporting development in the highest peak. Agriculture is picking up big time in the southwest. While the north, that is actually at the corridor of power, is exporting and producing terrorism. They are producing bandits. They are producing Fulani herdsmen that are busy terrorizing the people. And other regions are not liking this export. They don't want in fact, they don't desire their produce, because their produce are not just injurious to their economy, it's also injurious to human and mankind. And hence you see the agitation for regional policing, regional security. If the center cannot hold, and if the center keeps on holding on to the fact that they ought to secure the average man, I'm afraid that there may be more agitations by other regions to secure other regions and also secure lives and property. Before now, the state governors and other regions were given powers to do so, but ever since the amendment of 1999 constitution and thereabout, more powers was given to the central, and given very little or no power, very little power to, when it comes to security, to the state. Right now, people are being asked for regional powers be given, and if that should happen, I'm afraid we don't need to be told what will happen to a lot of regions. I'm very sure that Southwest will peak, and will peak very speedily. If Biafra is not given, I'm also very sure the Southeast is already on a speedometer and a speed, in fact, on a high lane as we speak. They're just waiting for without even be given support, financial support, and political recognitions that much. They have started showing signs that they are ready to become the next China in Nigeria, and that also goes for other regions. But I'm afraid that the North, even though they have been in the corridor of power, they have nothing to show for it. They seem to be selling out terrorism and all that. If they are to begin to pick up development. I'm afraid they don't have much illiterate indigenes. They are quite not exposed. They seem to understand the issue of terrorism much more. They have destroyed their lands, and they have a lot of terrorists comfortably staying in their region, so it may take them a lot of hackling task. So I perceive that if there's any people, if there's any region that may want to fight against the issue of regionalism and true federalism in Nigeria, it will be the core north, because they will have everything to lose and to be so glaring that they've been taking the country backwards with their level of exposure and level of management techniques that they have been using to govern the country since so many years. So if this issue of regionalism and true federalism come into play, it will expose quite a lot of beggarly states and what regions have been beggarly thus far. But I feel that though what Governor Sanwo-Olu is saying is the right thing to say, the right thing to do, but I'm afraid it may not see the light of the day, because if true regionalism goes forth, that's it's a way of secession that indirectly, the center will not have much power, which also means that every region can decide who enters their region and who doesn't. It gives so much power to the region and gives very little power to the center, which may not be auguring well for those in the corridor of power. And secondly, I feel that a whole lot of Nigerians in the south may want to export other Nigerians that are from the northern region back to their regions to go and develop the region that is already bastardized as we speak. But it's just an opinion from the Governor Sanwo-Olu. I doubt if they will put it into practice. But of course, we've already started seeing Amotekun coming into play here. They may call it state policing, but it's actually regional policing. As they begin to move, time will tell if they had everything in plan. But that's my take on it. I think that Governor Sanwo-Olu is very correct in this, but I also know that it may never see the light of day, because taking power from the central is one thing the presidency may not be willing to do. But that's my take on this. What